Hi, I'm Brandon, and I want to welcome you here to the Tansson Talks show, where our mission here is to help bring people together. I always love doing this show, and I'm very excited for us to get into today's episode with my guest here today, Liam. Welcome to the show.
Hi, nice to meet you. I'm super happy to be here. My first podcast, so I'm pretty excited, I'm not going to lie.
That's very exciting, and welcome to your very first one. How are you doing today?
I'm good. Had a nice day, did my usual things, and now I'm here. Can't complain. How about yourself?
I'm doing well. This has been an amazing day thus far, and I'm very excited to continue it with our conversation here today, much anticipated.
Yes, me too. Yes.
Yeah, and so before we go ahead and get started, if you're able to go ahead, Liam, and introduce yourself for the watching or listening audience here today.
Yeah, so my name's Liam Crowley. I just graduated from college at North Carolina State University in May, and then I moved to Tampa, Florida, having got a job down here, and I came down here knowing nobody, knowing nothing, just to do it, and then I slowly kind of fell into what I do now, which I still do my job, but I fell into the whole social media side of just the whole pursuit of what you can do on social media. And I think it's very intriguing and it's very exciting and fun for me to do in my free time. And it's showing the stuff I would do on a normal basis. So I thought I might as well record it and see what happens. And I think it's just a lot of fun.
Yeah. That's amazing. And first of all, congratulations on having graduated.
Thank you. And you too. I know we talked about that.
Yeah. Thank you so much. Yeah, I greatly appreciate it. And so I guess I'll actually start off with that note. So overall, how does it feel to officially, having been graduated for several months now at this time of recording this?
It's cool. It's weird because, your whole life you've been in school. I'm 24, so all I know is like being in school and you're on summer break, you're on winter break. Right now it's Christmas, so you would be on Christmas break. Everyone always says you have so much free time when you're in school, and then when you're in school, you're like, nah, I don't have that much free time. No, they're right. And then time has been flying by. The fact it's already December, it felt like it went like that, which is fun. I didn't like it at first because I was still kind of finding my way. I still am finding my way, but I was over the summer, I felt like I was spinning my wheels a lot. So I was like, time's going so fast and I don't even really know what I think I'm doing. But I feel better about that now. I think one of the things like aging more gracefully is just being not satisfied in that you're done doing things, but satisfied with what's going on and happy with what's going on, or at least what you're pursuing. So with time going by quicker, but I'm still trying to work on these things. It makes me feel a little bit better knowing that I have some sort of grasp on life, if one can ever have that. But
absolutely, because if we can't manage to control the world, we might as well at least control what we do.
Exactly, I agree with that 100%.
Yeah, and I definitely, at some point in time during our conversation, would love to hear about some of your college journey. But I did want to focus on the present, where we are now. And so, as you mentioned, you currently have a social media presence. And as you said, you sort of document what you do now. But are you able to let us know, for those who may be unfamiliar with you, what is it that you currently do?
Yeah, so I just started, like I said, posting probably right at the end of May. But I didn't start posting consistently till maybe the end of July or early August. I think, it was in August. It was in August. So as of August till now, I've been posting every single day. And now I post twice a day. But what I actually post is, my goal is like motivation, inspiration, and thought-provoking posts or content. So originally I was just posting videos while I was running or walking of just my thoughts on life and all these different aspects in general, or things about working out and all these things, just to kind of get people thinking, not trying to tell people what to do or not trying to show people like, oh, this is what I'm doing. Just to get people thinking, because I think that's super important, because thinking for yourself and understanding what you do and don't like, which I think sounds super obvious, but I feel like oftentimes we get far in life and realize there's things we're doing that we're not doing for ourselves, it's for other reasons. So that was my main motivation behind starting to post. And now it's slowly kind of morphed into what it is now, to where when I started prepping for the first marathon, I was showing that and I was talking a lot about that, but still mixing in the thought provoking things while doing that. And then I liked that, but it was like, I kind of wanted to separate things to, in my head, make it a little cleaner in a way. So now what I do is I write little notes, which I have the thing, like I have this book, and then I'll write notes. This was the one I posted today, but I'll handwrite the notes and put like a little doodle next to it that I feel relates to it. Just because I think that's fun. And I think you read it and then you might look at the thing and you're like, how does that even relate? You're like, oh, I get that. But those are the thought-provoking nature ones. And again, I really like that. I hope people read them. If not, I have fun with it anyways. And then the videos I'll post are the reels, which I'll post them on TikTok too. But they're more showing my personality in a fun way, I think. Just being myself and showing people. I think by being yourself, people notice that, and then it kind of motivates them to be themselves. So I think that's cool. And then showing the workouts I'm doing. So in the gym 6 days a week, so they always usually start with that, and then whatever I'm doing later in the day, which is after work. So whether it's running, biking, so I'm slowly starting to get back into biking after the marathons. I want to take up swimming because in the future I want to do some triathlons. There's one in specific this year that I want to do. So take up that, or if it's just a rest day, I'll go on a walk or do whatever like that, and then show that, and then I'll kind of sprinkle in usually whatever this note was. I'll kind of talk about that a little bit in the video, and so that kind of gets my fix, because I don't want to just be posting videos. There's value in posting videos of working out and what you're doing, because those are motivating, and seeing that from other people motivates me. And maybe at someday it will morph into that. But I like throwing in those things that I believe provide value. And if not, then they provide value to me. But yeah, I think I feel comfort in knowing that I'm not just doing things to just say, oh, look at me, like, look what I'm doing. I really want it to be helpful for other people. That's my main goal. Yeah.
I love that. And I like that you said, one, that you, even though that, of course, your content has evolved, since you began in August-ish, but that even though you decided to make it a little bit more simplistic for the sake of not being all over the place, because I know those Instagram reels go by very fast, and it definitely are tailored more to one subject than numerous. But I like that instead of I like that instead of losing that other aspect of yourself, that you decide to make it and showcase it in just a different way.
Yeah. And I think part of doing this is learning as you go, because I mean that's kind of every aspect of life. You kind of learn as you go. Just trying to see what works and what doesn't. Some videos do good, some don't, or some will be the same format, but one does really good and one doesn't do good. And I'm like, I don't even really know why that is. So the Instagram algorithms are a mystery, to say the least. But yeah, just adapting as I go and just trying to do the best I can.
Well, that's definitely great. And when would you say that you sort of got rhythm with it? I mean, because I know you mentioned that you started posting, the initial videos and posts back around August. But at what point did it become like, okay, let's go make that video, to now, like, that's just a part of your routine?
Yeah, so when I first started posting, like I said, I kind of fell into it. I posted, when I moved down to Florida, I posted a reel that was just going to be a one-off thing of my move down. But then I was like, that was actually kind of a lot of fun. And then, so I made a bed frame when I moved here. So that was like 9 different videos. And then I was like, this is fun. I'm having fun with this. So I'm just going to keep kind of doing it. But I was doing it a bit more sporadic. Like maybe I'd do like 2 or 3 posts every week. And then I'm trying to remember when I would make videos kind of when I was running, and then the comment would be more motivational, because I think at that time I was still kind of shy to kind of talk like how I do now and just say these things. Not that they're anything crazy, but just say them, just shy essentially. And so they slowly morphed into it as I got more comfortable. And then once I started the first marathon prep, it kind of gave me an excuse to post every day. Because at first I was like, oh, I'm probably just being annoying if I post every day. That's what was going through my head. And then, yeah, I was just like, I'm just being annoying probably. So that gave me an excuse to start posting every day. And then for me, once I kind of get in a routine that in a way I think moves me forward and that I think will move me forward, I'm pretty headstrong about it. So since I started posting every day, I've been posting every day. And then the reason I started posting twice was just to make the notes. Um, so yeah, yeah.
Well, that makes perfect sense, and it's interesting how you mentioned that it started off with just posting, the moving videos, and then building
Mm-hmm.
that bed frame and just sort of evolved from there. And I know when I first started content creation in 2016, I was doing tech
Wow.
videos at the time, and I remember, yeah, if anyone were to ever ask me, it's just like, so when did you feel like you were a YouTuber? I was just like day one recording the video before it even went out, like, and it wasn't so much like a like I'm trying to do this, I'm trying to do that. It's like no, I told myself I'm doing this, and I went in confident as if I've been doing it for years. I mean, that's just
Mm-hmm.
sort of who I am. So I like that you mentioned that you embodied some of that, and what I
Mm-hmm.
found interesting that you mentioned in passing is that you're a little bit more shyer than, and so is that more so like your like how you were in recording, or is that how you are in like in your regular day to day life when you're off screen?
Yeah, that growing up, if anyone that knows me from growing up till probably like a year or two ago would be like, this guy's super shy, doesn't talk. I think a lot of times people would think I was judgmental because I was just shy and I would observe. I really like observing people, and that's part of the reason why I've learned a lot over the years of simply observing. But I think oftentimes people would think I was just judging them. I was like, no, just watching. But yeah, in general, I was always very shy, and eventually I started to get more comfortable and gain confidence, and a lot of that was through the gym, which is another reason why I love to promote it because I think it's so powerful, or at least it's been so powerful for me. And so, and again, like that just over evolved over time. And part of being yourself is you have to kind of learn who you are, which again, that's another thing that's weird. You're like, you're yourself. You think you would just know, but it's kind of not that way. So it's kind of a trial and error process. You try different things. You're like, I don't like this. I do like this. Um, and I think deep down, maybe putting aside like what I know I like and stuff, but just the way you act and you go about your daily day, you do kind of know that. And obviously, as you mature, you get better about those things. So maybe there's certain things that maybe you would do in public or do alone that you wouldn't do in public. Like I'm not going to go. I mean, I shouldn't say I wouldn't burp in public, but like if I'm alone, I'll burp. But you wouldn't burp in public. But you could argue like, oh, well, that's just me, which you can make that argument. But that's kind of case by case. But yeah.
Oh, I 100% understand that. And I like that you
Mm-hmm.
mentioned that, the gym was able to help, build your confidence up. And I'm definitely excited to hear in just a little bit about the role that it played within your life. But I want to actually
Mm-hmm.
circle back to, to the notes that you have every day and post.
Mm-hmm.
And so for you, like, what is the process that you take in making them in the sense that I know you speak about them within your videos, but
Mm-hmm.
does the post come but does the post come first as in the video, or does the note, and what inspires what goes on the note for the day?
Yeah. So the process is I post the picture of the note. I wake up at 4:30, and so I'll post a picture when I wake up, which is usually between 4:30 and 5, maybe sometimes a little after 5. But that's when I'll post that, and then I'll post the video because so the videos are a day behind. So then I'll post that video, but that video will reference the note from the day before, if that makes sense. So like this morning, the note I posted, I'll talk about it in tomorrow's video, if that makes sense. And then, what was the second part to that question?
Oh yeah, so what inspires what goes on the note?
Yeah. So initially, my thought with these notes was I wanted to make a book, which I still do, but I wanted to make a like a daily read book. So over time, I kind of started writing them down maybe like a month or two ago. Um, so I had a little over 100 different little notes or topics or whatever, and so I was stacking them. But then I was kind of thinking like, why not just kind of put it out there now? And then you can still do a book down the line, and then just edit these as they go because endless editing. But yeah, and so what inspires them? Kind of just my daily life, what's going on in my life. Again, observing a lot. Oftentimes, like the best flows I'll have, because sometimes I'll write a lot in a sitting. It's usually when I'm sitting outside or something in nature, or just kind of sitting in silence in nature in specific. You can just watch. You can relate. I think a lot of life relates back to nature and just how it flows and all those things, and just not trying to think too hard about it. Because sometimes I'll sit down, usually right when I get to work a little early, and then I'll try to see if I can write a couple down. Some mornings there's just nothing coming to me, and I'm like, you can't force it, because usually when I try to force it, it's not that good. But or I'll force it, write it down, and then come back to it later and then refine it. But yeah, that's usually how it goes. Is just get this urge, and I'm like, I gotta write this down. Which the wall behind me is like a subway tile wall, so I have a bunch of dry erase markers. So when I get ideas, I'll write them down so I don't forget, because I will forget. But yeah, that's kind of how it goes.
Wow, I mean that's definitely amazing, and I'm glad that you enjoy a good dry erase. I mean, I know I keep a lot of my stuff on dry erase boards as well. I mean, like I know for me, I always have so many different thoughts, and usually come at the most inopportune times for me. That it's just like, oh yeah, I'm in the middle of something, I need 100% concentration. Oh, by the way, did you realize that?
Yeah.
And so. I know when I was writing my master's thesis, that was probably the most interesting thing. I'd have no flow, and then all of a
Mm-hmm.
sudden, something happens. Like, oh, that's an interesting thought. Something to
Yeah.
compare and contrast.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Yeah, it's always frustrating when I'll have those ideas and sometimes I can't write them down, or I'll make videos real quick and just talking, and you just don't do it. And I'm like, shit, because now I don't remember what it was. But usually it'll come back, maybe in a different form, but it'll kind of come back at some point. I'm like, okay, I got to write this down now.
But yeah, but it definitely is great, of course, when those thoughts do come back, though.
Mm-hmm.
And overall, now a few months having done, like I said, this page. So, what would you say that is something that you have learned the most about it? Is there anything, especially since you record like many of your habits and your workouts,
Mm-hmm.
you're walking, running, preparing for the marathon? Is there anything that you see, like in looking back at the footage, it's like, oh, I didn't realize I did that to my day to day?
I I think the biggest thing I realized when I don't look back on them all the time, because part of me feels like that's, I don't know, like I wouldn't want to be sitting here every single day looking back at my videos, because I feel like that would be a little odd. Maybe, I don't know. But when I do, I will watch them back, and I edit them, so obviously I have to watch them. But oftentimes when I do watch them back, it's almost, the feeling is odd, because I feel kind of proud of myself in a way, because I think maybe because it roots back to just how I know how I was. I was so shy, and I always had these thoughts my whole life, but I never talked about them. Just, and when I did talk about them, or just some, I felt like it just never really felt understood. Maybe that's a normal thing. Maybe I was just being. I mean, that could say more about myself than to the people I was talking to, which I think putting my thoughts into words I was never very good at, and I'm still working on that now. But the videos help because you have to talk and translate in the best way you can. Um, but in terms of like what I did, sometimes I don't know. I feel like I've been doing the same stuff for so long. I mean, the location changes from state to state, and the times I do certain things change. But in general, like the my routine's been very similar. I just started waking up at 4:30 just when I started this job back in June, but I was always waking up at 5, so that wasn't, the 30-minute leap wasn't crazy. So I was always waking up, working out, and then at the time I would be in school, so I would do whatever school stuff I had during the day. I'd go on a lot of walks because I did have that free time, and then Yeah, and then slowly when I started to get back into running, I'd mix that in, and other jobs I had at the time. My last job I worked before this one, I was a server. That was actually a lot of fun. So mixing that in, but it was always like workout, work, school, or job, which I feel like school and job go hand in hand in a sense, just like what they are.
Yeah, that definitely makes sense. And yeah, and I actually wanted to switch gears a little bit
Yeah.
too. And so yeah, and you mentioned a little bit earlier, of course, that you recently did a marathon and then you did another. And so how were the processes for both of those?
That I'm glad you asked. The it was a lot of fun. It was again, it was surprising because I did cross country growing up and I hated it. I always thought I'd get back into running. I just didn't think it'd be so soon. But so going into the first marathon, the marathon was in Raleigh, North Carolina, which is where I went to school. And so my thought process was senior year of high school or of college. I was like, I want to run that marathon next year. And so, because the apartment I lived in, I saw it for 2 years in a row. And I was like, that's cool. But the first time I saw it, I was like, I'd never run a marathon. And then the second time it was when I just started kind of getting back into running. I'd run like a mile or two a couple of times a week. But then I was like, maybe I could do that. I think I want to do that next year. And so then I was like, if I graduate and stick around Raleigh, I'm gonna do it. But then I graduated, I moved down here, so I was like, well, I guess I just won't do it. But then I have my brother that lives in North Carolina, and then he called me up and he was like, yeah, do you know about that marathon? And I was like, yeah, of course I do. And he was gonna run the half marathon. And he was like, do you want to do it with me? I was like, yeah, I'll do the half marathon. But then I was thinking, well, I already said I was gonna do the full. Why would I just do the half? I'm kind of like it's going against my own word now. So that's kind of what got me into actually doing it to go back to North Carolina. But I'm very glad. I'm very fortunate for that because it was a lot of fun. So going into it, I did a lot of research, and then from this knowledge I had from just growing up, I made my plan. It was 11 weeks, which, given my conditioning, is a decent enough amount of time considering I wasn't going for like a crazy, crazy time. At least I didn't think I was at the time. I was just going to try to break 4 hours, and if I got 3:59, I was going to be really happy with that. And then training in the Florida heat was brutal, but it helped me a lot in terms of my cardio conditioning and a lot more than I realized because I would get done with runs and I would be just totally beat up, but mainly just because of the heat. The heat was so brutal. But then as it started to cool off, I noticed, I was like, okay, I think I'm in a lot better shape than I really thought I was going to be. Partly to do, obviously, the training, but a big part just from that heat. And then being in North Carolina, it's going to be a lot cooler in November. It was November 3rd. And the conditions that morning ended up being like perfect. Um, so yeah, so I was super excited about that. So every run, even I'd come home from work, we get off at 6 or usually at 6. And I'd come home from work those days that you don't want to go run 10 miles on a Wednesday. I'd be like, oh man, this is brutal. But in the back of my head going into that first one, I was so excited. And then I was like, I'm going to do a lot better than I really thought I was going to do. So that alone was super exciting. And just the friction of it. Personally, I enjoy that. I don't know what it is, but it's just kind of fun. So yeah, and then I ran the first one at 3 hours and 34 minutes, which is, I think I averaged an 8:11 or 8:14 minute per mile pace, which again, my original goal was going to be like 8:50-ish pace to 9 minutes if I can hold it. So that made me really excited. I cried for a little bit after that race just because I was so happy about it. But then that race was very hilly. And I knew that going into it, but I didn't know how hilly it would be. And the 3 miles out from the end, there was a big one that it was long, or it was not super steep, but it was long. And those really take a lot out of you. And so I finished the race, but I was like, I feel like I definitely have more in me on a flatter course. So that's kind of where I got the idea to find another one in December that was very close out because I already believed I had the conditioning to do better. So I was like, I'll just try to do one really quick. And luckily I had enough time for my body to recover. So after that marathon, I took a full week off of running, just relaxed. And then I signed up for the marathon the following Monday. So I took that week off and then I signed up for it Monday and I was like, okay, we're doing this. And then hopped right back into all the training, just wrote up like a quick 4-week plan. Um, and then, yeah, training was the same. It was fun, but that drive of this is my first marathon was not there. So it was a lot more gritty. It was a lot more like, I said, I'm doing this, I'm going to do it. And I have zero regrets of doing it. And during the time I was like, I don't regret doing this, but it's a lot harder mentally because I'm like, that excitement wasn't necessarily there. But then going into the marathon again, lucked out. Weather was perfect. It was dark. Um, it was very unorganized, unfortunately. So the first, not even a mile in, everybody got lost because there was supposed to be a cone. Because like I mentioned, we started in the dark. Like it was dark. There were no lights. Even parking, we couldn't see. They were like, where are we even going? I can't even see. So we started in the dark and then everybody got lost. It was supposed to be a mile loop. And then I look at my watch, it says 0.8. And we haven't even started to like loop around or turn. I was like, this doesn't seem right. But I was like, maybe I'm wrong. And then eventually someone realizes and they're like, dude, we're all going the wrong way. And I was like, oh. So that was, once we figured that out, we started running back. And then you're kind of thinking like, did I just blow this whole race in a mile? Do I keep going? Like what's going on? Are we restarting or do I conserve energy? What's going on? So we start running back and everyone around me's complaining. I was complaining a little bit too at the start, but then I was like, I can't, this is 26 miles. I can't be complaining on mile 1. I'm just not, those aren't going to mix well. So after we kind of figured out we're not restarting, this race is going to go on, I tried to just get by myself. I didn't want to be running next to anyone because everyone was just kind of in a bad mood. And I was like, I just want to be in my own thoughts right now. And so I just did that and then just paid attention to my watch. And luckily, I just got really lucky. By the time I finished just behind the finish line. So like maybe like 20 yards behind the finish line. So it kind of made it seem like it was a legit race. But yeah, so then I ended up running a 3:22, which was an average of a 7:44 minute per mile pace. So that, again, I was super excited about that. And my goal pace per mile was going to be between 7:50 to 8 minutes. I guess maybe closer to 7:55 because I wanted to go sub 3:30. But I was saying sub 3:30, but I knew in my head I was thinking 3:25, which I got the 3:22, which I was super happy about again. So yeah, that's kind of how those all went.
Well, that's really interesting, to know that the second race is just so highly disorganized and that you all practically went like a mile out of the way and in the dark. And so like at the time that you were going into it, I know that you said that you wanted to sort of reorient on yourself and just do the best that you could at the time. But like, what were some of your like initial thoughts, knowing that you'd put weeks of preparation into this race and that you wanted to make sure that you were in shape, you had a whole game plan and plan because you wanted to be prepared for the race itself to not even be organized and prepared.
Yeah, it was initially I was just like, holy crap. I was like, the race is over. I was like, we're not even a mile in. I was like, just screwed it. And then I was like, dang, what is this gonna look like on social media? But then, I mean, that wasn't my main concern, but it was a concern. I'm not gonna lie and say it wasn't. But then I kind of thought, I was like, well, maybe I'll just, because like you said, I got in shape. I did the little taper and I was like, I don't want to just waste this. So then initially I was like, I just kind of want to restart, which kind of sucks because you are a little over. By the time we ran back, we were over a mile in. But I was like, I would almost just rather restart. But then one of the guys was like, no, you don't want to do that. I was like, oh, okay, I guess you're right. But yeah, and then just kind of followed what the people were doing. And there was like 2 main people working it. Like that was it. And so she was driving around in her truck, kind of telling people where to go. People are still just confused. But I was like, okay, I guess we're just doing this. And then one of the guys was like, you can just do it on your watch. I was like, that is very true. So yeah, so that's just what it turned into for everybody, a watch race. And so took the best of the situation, which again, it didn't take too long to get over. Um, and like I said, I wanted to kind of get by myself. Um, but yeah, and then once you found your rhythm, it took a little bit longer to find that rhythm, but then you kind of forget about it and you're like, I'm in this now. So yeah, yeah.
Well, glad you had your watch.
Me too. Thank you.
But yeah, I mean, it's. I'm so glad that you were able to change a not ideal situation
Hmm.
into one that was able to work out, and you made a video, speaking about that as well.
Yeah. 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 I wanted to give a little race recap as I was like hobbling around. My legs were just so tired. Um, but yeah, I think that's fun. I think I like to just to kind of show my background was always bodybuilding. So I always thought I would do a prep series, but I always thought it'd be for bodybuilding. But they would do prep series on YouTube and basically just showing everything about what they would do, and they would talk about what they would do and how they would feel and how things felt. And so that's kind of the angle I wanted to take into my little marathon prep and for the race itself, was just explaining how it felt for me and how days were. So I always felt weird because sometimes like I don't want to sound like I'm complaining. Like at the beginning, I was like, "Oh, the race was all messed up. We ran an extra thing," and this was how I felt about it. Like I don't want to sound like I'm complaining, but I want to make it transparent and just say what it was. And a lot of times, like just what it was is what it was, and not meant to be a complaint. It's neither here nor there. But yeah, I really like that angle of taking it because it makes it relatable and kind of show the fact that everyone's human and we're all just yeah, it makes it relatable in the fact that it's a human thing. It's not perfect.
Yeah, and I actually want to take a different approach for this next question.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that we've spoken about how, like I said, that you've, like I said, prepped your body, one for these, for these marathons, and that you've built yourself up, and that even for some things like like documenting the journey, getting outside your comfort zone, even with
Mm-hmm.
like socialization, and just pushing yourself further. Is that I like that you emphasize that you decide to take a little bit of a break, not so much, of course, from everything, but at least to slow down after between your first marathon and your second one. And so, are you able
Yeah.
to tell us a little bit, like, what is the importance of that?
Of taking that week off.
Yeah,
I think it's super important. Something I think listening to your body. So maybe your body said I only need 2 days off and then I'm good to go. But in my experience, I once I start something, I like to just go all in. So the first time when I first got back into running, I just wanted to run. I was like, I just want to run, run, run. And so I started to develop an injury in my shin, which started as shin splints and then developed into a stress fracture. And I felt the pain and it hurt. But I was like, oh, I'm fine. I'll just run through it and eventually it'll get better. And then one time I was going out for a run and I felt like I don't remember if I heard it, but I felt like a snap, like a pop. And I was like, that was it. And I just stopped and I was like, it was awful. But I still, like an idiot, I still ran back. I just turned around where it was, but I ran back. I think I was going to go for a 4 mile run at that time. And I think I was like a mile out. So I ended up like kind of hobbling 2 miles. And then I had to take 6 months off of running. And it was this again, I don't want to be like complaining or dramatic, but it hurt. I was like, I would be nauseous. I was still in school, so I had to walk to class. It was like nauseous walking to class and walking to the gym in the mornings. So eventually I ended up buying a bike because I didn't want to keep walking. And I was like, I walk too slow. This hurts. So that made me learn really quick. And then just through the gym, I, I have bad, as much self control as I may sometimes seem to have, I have bad self control and controlling my impulses and wanting to just do. So coming off after that marathon, it's a it's 26 miles. It's a lot of abuse in your body. Running itself, even if you run a mile, is a lot of abuse. So I knew I was going to need to take time off regardless. And I just a week sounded good. And by the time I got to Sunday, I did like a mini triathlon for fun, and I felt pretty good. And I was like, okay, I'm good to go. I probably could have started running during the week, maybe Thursday or Friday, but again, you run the risk of like overuse injuries. And I was like, at this point, I'm not gaining that. I'm not going to gain like 5 minutes off my time if I go run 8 miles and get injured or something. So yeah, and just giving your body, it needs the recovery. Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm really glad that you mentioned that because I feel like there's such a fine line between, pushing yourself to the limit versus going against your body, doing something
Mm-hmm.
that truly that is, a little bit fervent. Like, how do you, like, for instance, like walk that tightrope between, pushing your limits, making sure that you're able to go above and beyond, but without hurting yourself in the process.
Yeah. Again, that it's been trial and error, but that's something I still struggle with. It's hard. One of the workouts before the first marathon, it was a track workout. I think I had 5 reps of. I don't remember. I don't remember if it was 5 300 meters or 5,000 meters repeats. I can't remember for sure, but I ended up doing 4 because I was there. I forget the exact situations, but I just didn't have enough food in me, which is super important. Food is literally fuel. And I during that first marathon prep, there was a point in time when I just stopped. I had zero appetite, and then my sleep was awful. And I think a lot of it rooted I was just really nervous, um, and partly probably overtraining too. But so I had my sleep was god awful, and then I didn't have enough food in me because I just wasn't hungry. So I was like having to just force food down. Sometimes I just wouldn't get it down. And I remember that in specific, I was really the mental battle of like, am I being lazy or do I really need to not do this? And that I struggled with that, and I was thinking the whole time. I was like, I don't know. I I just struggled with it a lot, and then eventually I was like, no, you can't, you shouldn't do it. Like it's smarter to just not do it. And I think finding that is just getting really honest and letting pride aside. And I mean, no one's in my head. No one's like judging me. No one knew at the time. They're like, oh, this kid was supposed to do 5 reps. It was just down to me. I was like, do you need this or not? Or is this going to hurt you more than it's going to help you? And I think it was going to hurt me more than it would have helped me. Um, so yeah, and then, yeah, it's a tough line to ride, especially when I was very dedicated to that race. I was like, I really want to do good. So it just makes it a tough line to ride. A balance beam. One of the things I mentioned on my story, because I was kind of dealing with a slight injury at the start, I was like, I'm walking on a balance beam. So kind of not overdoing it, not underdoing it, adapting when I needed to. At the start, I would do some swim workouts to just let my leg recover. And swimming, I mean, cardio wise, your body doesn't necessarily know the difference. Your heart's pumping for an extended period of time. And that's kind of all it knows. The abuse wise, though, if I just swam for that whole prep, running 26 miles, my body would have fell apart at 10. So there's that you need to, your body needs to build up to that physical abuse. But yeah, hopefully that answer makes sense.
Oh, it 100% does. And I like that you mentioned too, of course, that you have to, build yourself up for that. And I think that is
Mm-hmm.
such an important aspect of it. And I actually want to switch gears a little bit. And so,
Mm-hmm.
of course, you mentioned that you just, as I graduated a few months ago. And so I actually want to head back to, before you even started college. And so how would you say that you were, pre-college, like within high school or otherwise? Like, how was your lifestyle at that point?
Yeah. So I had started working out my right after my freshman year of high school. It was like a week before I got my license because the first time I went, I rode my bike. Then I went to Taco Bell afterwards. But I my lifestyle was I always worked out, but once I started going consistently after my freshman year, that was like my thing. I started going every other day up until my cross country season. And then, oh, actually, once I started, so I started in June. It was a week before my birthday. And then I was going every other day. And then cross country season came up, which started in the fall. And this kind of goes back to our conversation we just had was I was thinking, I was like, my body can't handle working out and running at the same time, especially just starting out. Your body, again, it just needs to build up to those things. So I had to very, 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 very reluctantly stop in the gym and then just do cross country, which I didn't want to do, but I don't know. I just, your parents want you to do things and you just do it. And so I did that. And then I remember coming back to the gym afterwards and I was like, oh my God, I lost everything. Even though I was only working out for a few months, I didn't gain like a crazy amount of stuff. But, and then after that, again, I just never stopped. And then I started going every day. And then I kept doing it through track and cross country, which I only did track for 2 years in high school. That one I didn't really like. And I usually would run the 1 or 2 mile. And if we had like an indoor track, if you're running 2 miles, it's like over 10 laps. You're like, this sucks. But yeah, track was never really my thing. And then I did cross country up till my senior year. And then I ended up quitting because I was like, I just was so over it. It's like, I'm done. I just want to get muscular. And so, but in quitting, I knew I would get back into running. And I didn't necessarily take the quitting aspect lightly because, again, you're quitting. And how does that mentality carry over? So it wasn't necessarily, it'd be different if I was quitting to just quit and not do anything. But I was like, I'm quitting because I want to focus on working out. This is my priority. So that was my thought process behind that. And so, yeah, I just felt like that was important to mention. But yeah, and then focusing on working out all the time, just always in the gym. It's like school, gym, and then eat. And that's kind of what people knew me for, was just working out at that point. My schedule was completely different. I was never a morning person. I would wake up, school would start at like, I think it was 8 o'clock. I'd wake up at like 7:30, 7:40, and then throw my stuff on. And then me and my twin would drive to school and usually be a little bit later, just on time. And then I would work out at night. I was a night owl, which I always enjoyed working out at night. Those are formative too, because I would drive to the gym in my car. I was alone. I would just kind of start thinking. And those are formative years. And so was college and everything, of course. And yeah, just going at night and then staying up late-ish, never like 3, 4 in the morning, just staying up later and then doing that all over again. And then I would still drink and eat whatever. Like I said, I ate Taco Bell, and I slowly kind of got into the diet things, but I never took it that seriously at the start.
Well, that definitely makes sense. And so I guess as a two-pronged question, so since you mentioned that it took a while for you to get some stuff like the diet aspect, yeah, a little bit later. And so at what point would you say that aspect started? And then since you also mentioned too, is that socially you were more observant as opposed to per se social and outgoing. And so when did that shift sort of come about for you?
Mm-hmm. So the first part, so the diet, it kind of started right away, but it started right away in that I just wanted to eat a lot, and I knew I needed calories because I was really skinny. So I would just eat anything. One of the things I'd eat a lot were frozen pizzas. So I'd like come home from the gym and eat a whole frozen pizza. I always look forward to it. They're real good. I wouldn't eat them nowadays, but so the main focus at the start was just getting in calories, and then it slowly kind of morphed into just what it is now. So I would just, like I said, I watched a lot of YouTube. I watched a lot of car YouTubers, and then I slowly, as I got into working out watched a lot of people working out on YouTube, and I would see what they would eat. I always really loved rice, so that was perfect for me. So I would do chicken and rice or stuff like that. I would sometimes prep those for lunch in high school. But by me prepping them, it was like if my mom made something with rice, then I would take that to school. I wasn't really cooking at that time. Sometimes I would, but not like I do now. Or sometimes I just wouldn't eat lunch, not because I didn't think I needed it or anything. I just was lazy. And then, yeah, so, and then, yeah, it slowly morphed into it. And then by the end of high school, I had a better grasp of like how I like to eat, which was the rice. I would eat chicken. I would eat some beef, and yeah, I mean, I would eat sandwiches, and I wasn't as strict as I was. It was a lot more I would still eat. Like if we went out to eat, I would eat whatever. I'd eat burgers and stuff. But in general, if I was making stuff for myself, it would be more cleaner ish foods. That's kind of, and then yeah. Oh, and then the second part to that question was, could you repeat it?
Oh yeah. And so, first of all, the part that you said makes perfect sense there. And so,
Mm,
as for the second one, since you mentioned that you weren't as social back then and outgoing, so when did that shift sort of come about for you, and what prompted it?
yeah. I think just slowly coming into myself and slowly again building that confidence and security through working out because I lacked confidence and I was very insecure, which I never realized that until just one time. I was like, yeah, I am. But yeah, slowly realizing that and just becoming more comfortable with yourself and realizing that people don't not like you, but people don't necessarily like someone that's just a follower. I mean, no one loves a yes man necessarily. You're not unique for trying to be someone else. You're unique for being you, and you're you. So why should you not be you? And that's kind of like the thought that grew over time. Essentially, is like if you're you, why not be you? Why try to be someone else? And I think in doing that was again becoming more comfortable with myself because I knew my thoughts and I knew what I would do, but sometimes you just do things because that's what everyone else is doing. And that led me to get into trouble a lot of times or just do stupid things because you're just doing it because everyone else does it. Even though you're thinking like, okay, I shouldn't do this. And you can root that back to like, that's being you. If you were being you, you wouldn't have done that. Um, so yeah, so learning from those mistakes and again, becoming more comfortable, realizing that people do like you for you. Because sometimes you think, I'm just weird. I'm a weirdo. Like, why would people like me? Or you see people that are themselves and you think like I couldn't do that because they're cool or they're this, but I'm not that. If I be myself, I'd just be weird, which isn't true. Everyone loves, again, you could tell if someone's being genuine in themselves. And I think that's very, you attract people. And I think that is very attractive in general. So yeah.
I love that. And yeah, I think two highlights of what you just said is one being genuine and that people can tell when you're being genuine. And I like that even like with your content, I think that's very much displayed because I feel like it's so easy to sort of edit some things, so to speak. And
Mhm.
don't get me wrong, I mean, I love storytelling. There's nothing wrong per se with, you know, making things in the way that you would like to see it. But there's a difference, I think, between, uh, yeah, telling the story in the way that you want to do it and then actually changing what you do. And so I
Mhm.
like that you're very, like I said, genuine with that. And I also like that you said, like, why not be you?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I think like you mentioned, you edit a video and you edit a video. I think editing is cool because it's a creative opportunity. So you can be creative in editing, but you're not, you shouldn't be, at least I don't think you should be like changing what you're saying based off of just what you think other people might want to hear, maybe. Um, yeah, I think, yeah, I think that makes sense, maybe.
Yeah, it's definitely and yeah, an interesting thing that I feel like definitely per se should be explored more. And so when it was time for you, like I said to choose a college and figure out your life after high school, like had you always known that you'd wanted to go to North Carolina State University? Is that always where you wanted to go? And what did you ultimately end up studying?
So to answer that right away, no, I never thought I'd even be in North Carolina. So I grew up in Illinois, and then all my siblings went to school in Michigan. So in my head, again, you're kind of just following, not necessarily in a bad way. Like you look up to your siblings, but I was like, oh well, they all went to Michigan. I guess that's where I'm going to go. I should probably just go there. So that's what I did. I went to a school called Grand Valley State University for 2 years, and then I studied. My major was biomedical sciences, with an intent. I wanted to go to med school. Um, but in doing that, I knew even really before I started, I was like, do I really like, am I really doing this for me or am I doing this for other reasons? And is this really what I want to do? And I didn't really know what I wanted to do. So that kind of it was a safe path in the sense like there's really always going to be jobs in the medical field. So I was like, I guess I'll do that. But I knew deep down, I was like, I don't think this is for me. I liked learning about biology. That was actually a fun class I had. But I liked it more for the sense of like I work out, so it's cool to learn about this stuff and have a deeper understanding. Because when you're in the gym, you can think like, "Oh, I'm doing this because of this." I just think that's cool, but not at the level of going to med school and attaining all that debt. So I was very, I felt kind of lost. I remember many days where I was just thinking like, I don't know what I'm doing. It was very, I wasn't like depressed or anything, but you're very like, you're sad. You're like, this sucks. Like, I don't know what to do. Um, but my mom had always told me a lot. She's like, you should go into some sort of art design thing. But I never knew, I was just never aware of jobs in that field in general. So I don't want to be an artist, you know. But now, honestly, I would. I think that'd be really cool. But at the time, I was like, absolutely not. Um, and so then when I felt like this when I was in Michigan, I started to look into stuff in design to where I fell into what's called product design, or I fell into product design and then industrial design, which they're essentially the same thing. Um, and I really like that because, like I mentioned briefly, like I'm a car guy, so I grew up watching a lot of car YouTubers. And with industrial design, I thought I can get into working with cars and designing car parts. So I was like, this would be super cool. And so I started to do a lot more research with that. And it boiled down to a school in Chicago and into NC State. And then I ended up getting into both schools, but I was like, if I get into NC State, I'm just going to go there. Because then I didn't want to end up in Illinois. I think Chicago's cool, but I just didn't really have a desire to live there. Not a big city guy. I like having cars. I like being able to drive around. I don't have cars. I have a car. But in general, I like having like open space and a bit of nature around and all that stuff. So I went to North Carolina, had zero regrets. I really loved that school. I think it was awesome. I met a lot of good people. And then I got into, so initially I went there for industrial design. And so you have to make your portfolio and apply to actually get into the school. And so to my knowledge, they accept like 20 people or maybe 20 people at the time when I was trying to go, and over 100 people try to get in. To my knowledge, I could be wrong on that. But so I ended up getting waitlisted, which was, they said everyone's been accepted, but if someone doesn't, like you're the person on the wait list to get in. I ended up not getting in. I remember it was over Christmas break that I found that out. And then I was like, I looked at my computer. I didn't tell anybody. I was just like, F, like this. I was like, what the F? And then, so I didn't tell anybody. And then I just went and worked out that night. I was like, I still got to work out, so I'm just going to go to the gym. So then I went to the gym. And then again, it's just those times when you're alone, you work out, you're driving, you're alone, you're just listening to music, listening to sometimes nothing. And just thinking about it. And I was like, why? I was kind of thinking like, why me? Like, why does this happen to me? But it's not that big of a deal. And I'm looking back at it now, it's not that big of a deal. But at the time, I was like, that effing sucks. But then I ended up getting into, so I went into NC State with the major of design studies, but still with the intent to get into industrial design the following year. So try to reapply again. And initially, the advisor I had, she was like, you probably don't really want to do that. But I was like, no, I want to do that. But no, she was right. I should have just stuck with design studies. So then I just took like 12 credits and then maybe 12 or 15 the following semester, because I was like, I don't want to take classes that don't apply to what I'm trying to do, which was dumb. Because even if they didn't apply to what I wanted to do, I could have learned stuff that could be valuable. But yeah, so then ended up not even reapplying for industrial design, and then following through with design studies, which I actually am very happy with, because it was kind of, I always say it's like the business major of design. So you get a little bit of all the different aspects of design. And then you take a philosophical approach as well in terms of how and why you design, and in specific spaces and who's around and all these different aspects that come into why you make something the way you made it, which I found actually very interesting. And there's a book I found, it's called House as a Mirror of Self, that I found through school. We read like an excerpt from it and then ended up liking it. So I bought the book. yeah, I just found that stuff to be super interesting. And then I thought maybe I should just go into psychology. But I didn't do that because I was like, it's too late to do that now. Um, in terms of getting a bachelor's degree and no more than, and I graduated in 5 years, but I was like, I'm not trying to take this long to get a bachelor's. Um, but yeah, so it took us kind of a psychological approach as well, which I really enjoyed. Um, but yeah, so it's kind of how I got to North Carolina, and then yeah.
Well, that makes sense. And overall, even though it may have taken a little while, I'm glad that you
Mhm.
were able to sort of keep searching, find something that you actually want to do.
Mhm.
But then even when things don't work out, that you're still trying to figure out something, even if it was a little stubbornish at the beginning.
Yeah, yeah. I because at the very start, I really didn't even I put thought into it, but it's hard to figure out what you really want to do when you're 18 years old. And then over time, I kind of realized I was like, I don't even really want to be in Michigan. So then I was like, let me get out of here.
And would you say that, that as a person that you changed and evolved during your time, within college, of course, first in Michigan and then in North Carolina?
Absolutely, I would say Michigan was important in the fact that it those 2 years I was there, it was really good for me to get away from everything, like everything that was going on back home, and just not isolate myself, but just be isolated from all those situations, and just really be to myself and just kind of do whatever I wanted to do. I wasn't like acting out, but I just could just essentially block out everything that was going on. And then slowly, by the time I was leaving Michigan, that's when I started going on little walks. I'd go on like nature walks, and I was like, wow, this is amazing. And you just think, and so I slowly started dealing with myself and life and all these situations and finding out how important it is to just kind of be alone with yourself and your thoughts. One of the notes I wrote the other day was just being alone in your honesty, um, and just thinking and talking out loud or whatever. Um, and then by the time I got to North Carolina, I all very formative years. With that background in Michigan, having towards the end, taking that into North Carolina and then building on that. Um, Again, going on the walks. Something about the walks were very like almost meditative. I would just go on hours, like walk for hours, just thinking. At that time, I would usually leave my phone at home, which that's one of the downsides to the social media is you feel like you're always on your phone or always bringing your phone everywhere. But I'm like, I guess I have to if I want to film these videos. So I guess it's better than if I was just sitting there scrolling. But yeah, at those times I would just leave my phone and just walk for again sometimes for hours, and just think. And then I always had the gym. Um, yeah, and just a lot of different things that went on during all those times that again shaped me to who I am. Lots of learning. But I wouldn't change it because that's what made me who I am. It's how I've learned what I've learned. And I think it's all beautiful. And then Florida's too fresh to say what this period of time is. So I would say like Michigan's my year of kind of getting away, sort of blocking out, slowly kind of realizing things. North Carolina was really dealing with those things, being happier with myself, like sort of finding myself more. Um, Still had some weird year and a half, 2-ish years. But again, still very formative. Learned a lot about myself during those times. And then by the time I graduated, I was like, I feel really like I feel very good about myself, not in like a pretentious way, but it's just like, and I feel like I'm in a good position, um, to where then posting on social media when I got here, I was like, I feel like comfortable enough to do that. I think had I tried to do that a few years ago, I couldn't do that. I thought about that before. I was like, I surely could not have done this then just to how I've evolved to who I am now. But yeah.
Well, like I said, that's overall, like I said, so interesting to hear about, like I said, that personal evolution for yourself and, what you were doing, what you were studying, and how it shaped you. And I like that you mentioned, like I said, the walks and sort of the tranquility that comes with that. And I definitely want to, I mean, to touch on that in just a moment. But yeah, in your recent move, of course, from North Carolina to where you are in Tampa, Florida. So,
Hmm.
how was that move for you personally? And I believe you said that you were able to move when you got a job. And so, like, what was the job search like for you? And when did you find like that right fit for your job after college?
Yeah, so the move itself was pretty smooth. I was excited to, because like I said, I was pretty comfortable with myself and everything, and I liked being alone. So I was kind of excited at the prospect of being somewhere where I literally know nobody. Um, so that was exciting, and not even I really wasn't fearful of it. A lot of people were like, "That's weird," or just, "Are you scared?" I was like, "No, I'm excited." Um, and then the move itself, leaving North Carolina, wasn't bad. I was I was kind of ready to leave, sort of. I wasn't super excited, but I wasn't not excited because I was like, if I'm gonna leave and move somewhere like this is the time to do it. Because if I don't like it, um, I did meet I did meet this girl like not too long before I left, so that honestly kind of made it. That was one of the most sad parts. I was kind of like, dang, that kind of sucks. But that's just how life goes. You move on, you learn from those things, and that's beautiful. But the job search. So, like I said, I graduated in 5 years instead of four. So all my friends graduated before me. So I had the opportunity to basically watch how all their last year leading up to applying to jobs and all that went. Especially I'm a twin, so I got to see and watch her very closely. And I was thinking, I was like, okay, I'm gonna take advantage of this and learn, try to learn what I can from it. And the biggest thing I learned was, I guess, just in our generation, is it was hard to find a job. So with that in mind, I was like, I'm going to get my design portfolio and my resume dialed in the fall semester of my last year. So I'm going to get that all dialed in throughout the semester. And then by Christmas break, I want to have that stuff done. And so that's what I did. I had it done, had it dialed to what I thought was good. And I had some people look at it. And then I just started applying away like crazy because I just thought this is going to take me a year. Who knows how long this is going to take? So I was applying. And then eventually, a little over a month later, I ended up getting a job, which I was super surprised. I was fully prepared to be applying for months. And I had a serving job at the time, which was fun. I had a lot of fun there. And I was like, I'll just work there and I can pay rent and everything. I was like, I'll just work there until I find a normal job or just a job that's in my major. Um, but yeah, so I ended up getting that job, and then, which was super relieving because obviously that's stressful a little bit. You're like, I want to use my degree a little bit. So ended up finding that job and then signed for that. And then, so that was in February. I didn't start till June because the job was in Florida. I was in North Carolina. So I had those few months to still do school, but with the background knowledge of like, okay, you got a job. I'm still going to finish and do my work and stuff, but not much to stress about at this point. So that was really nice. Those few months were very relaxing. So I tried to take those moments in because, like I said, everyone's like, you have so much free time, and something I've begin to realize is, if there's a reason things are cliche, it's because they're likely true. So everyone says you have so much time, you have so much time. I'm like, okay, they're probably right. Let me take advantage of this now. So just take advantage of it and do whatever. Going again, just a lot of walks and runs and relaxing. Um, am I missing any part of that question?
Yeah, so I mean, so what type of work do you do? I'm not sure how much you're able to say, but even just broadly, like what type of work do you do when you're not doing these videos?
Yeah, so my job is in landscape architecture. I'm not like a certified architect, so I'm a landscape designer. Um, but it's essentially, if you could think of a college campus and how the paths are laid out, the buildings are placed here, one building's here, there's landscape beds, there's fountains, they have sculptures. That's kind of what landscape architecture is. So it's like land planning, but not on a city scale, just on a smaller scale. But I have a lot of fun with it because, especially at the company I work at, is very uh, it fits like the Florida vibe, so flowy kind of palm trees. That's kind of I guess you could say like my design style is like flowy, not very like harsh right angles, and so it's fun when we get to do like concept designs and stuff. And get to really stretch my creative legs. That's something that I really enjoy. So I enjoy that with my job. I enjoy that with the social media, um, and just in general, like making little things of furniture and with my car, just being a lot of opportunities to be creative. I really like.
I love that you're able to, I mean, to do something that you enjoy. And overall, yeah, a few months into everything, have you still been enjoying it and learning new things?
Yeah, in general, I like it. I think it's a really cool job on paper. The only thing is it's a desk job, which for me isn't my main cup of tea. So it's fun now, and it pays the bills and everything. And again, I enjoy it to an extent. Um, but it's surely not something, if I did for the next 20 years, I would be happy with myself. Um, so part of the social media is trying to kind of get out of that. Um, just kind of take responsibility for my life. If I don't want to do this for the rest of my life, then something needs to change, or you need to start trying to do something. So that's kind of what I'm doing with that. Um, and then through that what I call like voices, is one angle, um, which is their meetings of. So we've just had one meeting so far, which was fun. So two people joined, which was awesome. But I want them to be. Originally, I was thinking five people plus me, so six people per meeting. But I think maybe hopefully if as it grows, I think it would be narrowed down to maybe three people plus me, so four people altogether per meeting. But the meetings would be an hour long based off of a prompt. So whether it be something that I wrote or that I looked up or found interesting, everyone would I would start off, read the prompt, and then maybe I would just start off giving, or well, I guess based off the first meeting, I started off giving my thoughts and perspectives just to kind of set the example or set the tone. Try to make sure everyone felt comfortable and everything, and then have everyone else speak their thoughts and their perspectives, and then just dive into conversation following that. Um, kind of like, I mean, even podcast format where you get an in-depth, good conversation. Like these are fun to have, and they feel good. You grow from them, you learn from them. That's essentially what I want to do with those videos. And I think everyone would grow from them, whether it just be interpersonal skills, talking to people, or gaining perspectives, which I think is huge. I think if we can understand people and just understand situations, it's so much. I mean, we just understand things, and it makes. I think it makes life a lot better, and can potentially make life a lot easier. Um, Having those perspectives, and everyone has a different perspective on everything. Even for me, with the prompts, which I think is super interesting, I can read it or write it down one day and think and relate it to one specific thing, and then the next day I'll read it and think a completely different situation relating to it. So if you involve other people, there's so many different realms it could go down, and I would just want people to ask questions and grow and learn and be a part of it too. I think that's kind of the main goal with that. I think it'd be really cool.
That is pretty cool. And to first comment on what you were saying a little bit earlier before I comment on voices. So it's definitely interesting to hear that was said 9 to 6 that you're at your desk job, still doing something that you at least enjoy. But I'm sure that you much prefer sort of a hands-on approach to things where you get to get sort of down and dirty, like with the actual work. But yet 6 to 9, you are definitely, as we can see through your page, staying active, getting involved, and
Yeah.
doing as much as possible. And in terms of voices, I like that. I'm glad that your first session went well, and that you're able to hopefully,
Thank you.
of course, continue to grow with it. And so, what really prompted you to make voices? I know you spoke a little bit about what you hope to accomplish, but I'd love to hear like some of the thought that went into it.
Yeah. So sometimes I'll get little ideas, and then you kind of just push them off, and you think like, oh, that wouldn't work. That would be whatever. But I had this idea, and I was like, this is really cool. And one of the main things I liked when I first started posting videos was I mentioned earlier, like you feel kind of misunderstood a lot when you're growing up. And I felt heard. Even if nobody watched a video or anything, I would post a video and I feel like I'm just letting things out, and it feels really good, and I feel heard. And kind of the idea of supplying that for other people who may not have that opportunity, or just have similar thoughts that maybe they just don't feel understood, and around like-minded people, or like-minded people in that people want to grow and learn. Maybe not everyone agrees with each other, which is perfectly fine. That's, if anything, that's a good thing. Um, and working through those conversations, and yeah, supplying the sensation of feeling heard. I think it's very comforting and just relieving, if anything.
Yeah, and out of curiosity, so if someone, for instance, is tuning in now and they're a little curious as to what voices entails, for instance, and trying to figure out is this right for them. So is this something that, for instance, that someone can perhaps like attend once, or is it more of a recurring basis, like someone can come to each session, or what would be your thoughts or recommendations for someone who,
Mhm.
maybe it's like, okay, this sounds like an interesting concept. I want to potentially try this out. Want more information.
Yeah, absolutely. So right now, it's on a website where there's a $2 paywall. But what I would say to that is, if you are interested in it is to DM me, because that's what I did for. So that there are two people. I got, the night I first posted it, I had a dude join right away, and I was like, that's effing awesome, because all I need is one person. You just need one person. And so he joined, and then I was DMing another kid, and then I just sent him the Zoom link, so he was there for free, but $2, which I don't know, maybe I should just make it for free in general. But um, but yeah, I would just recommend to DM me, and then I can just send you the Zoom link, and you can join. And you don't have to be a guy, you don't have to be a girl. Guys or girls, any age, any color, any shapes, any sizes. We want them all. I want them all. Yeah, I think this. Yeah, yeah. And if you want to go to one and you don't like it, that's perfectly fine. If you love it, then that's awesome. Um, yeah.
Well, I'm glad that, like I said, that you had two people reach out to you, and that you're able to, like I said, I mean, to try out this venture. And I'm so excited to to hear, hopefully in, like I said, a few weeks and months, and even by the time this goes out, to hear how it's progressed, how attendance has been, because I think it's just such a great initiative that you're using to have conversations. And I feel like having open, honest, genuine conversations is something that
Mhm.
many of us need right now. And even if it's just sort of someone to just say like a simple "How are you?" That's how I would start off
Mhm.
my episodes, because I feel like we're not really asked that enough. And so sometimes
Yeah,
those simple things just make the difference.
absolutely. I think one of the things I was saying, I'm not a therapist, but it's almost like therapy, because you just kind of can get those thoughts out, and even you don't even know who these people are, and maybe that's comforting in the sense of like you can say these things, and you know. Um, but yeah, I think it's great.
Oh, I 100% get that. I mean, even for our conversation now, I believe you're the 165th person I believe who I've ever spoken to. Yeah, I mean, on these platforms, between my different shows I've had. But it's one of those things. It's just like, wow, I know that many people. I mean, I have always been a very reserved introvert, not necessarily shy. I've just as much as I love, like I said, observing things. I like sort of being able to feel things out, just be like, okay, that's how it works. Okay, got it.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, but nevertheless, though, knowing that's like, oh wow, I've spoken with that many people, really? I know that many people in my life. But
Yeah.
yeah, um,
And I'm sure you've learned a lot from those too.
oh, 100%. I
You've
mean,
grown a
there's
lot.
so much that I've learned as a person, and even as a friend. It's like, wow, like I may have known this person for years. I never knew that,
Hmm.
about them. And so there's certain things that don't come up in a traditional conversation
Yeah.
that may come up in like these podcasts or for your sessions, that that
Hmm.
really help you even shift the understanding of that person.
Yeah, absolutely. I think podcasts are one of the best trends that have ever happened. There's so many podcasts I'll listen to, and you learn so much. And yeah, I just think they're awesome.
That's great, and I'm so glad, like I said, that you have a chance to, like I said, be here on mine. I mean, that's so exciting.
Yeah, I'm super honored you even asked. I mean, you mentioned it, and I was like, absolutely. I think this is awesome. This is cool.
Thank you so much. And yeah, even as we begin, closing out momentarily, I did actually want to circle back to you mentioning your walks,
Mhm.
and so I know you mentioned that during college, for instance, that you had those nice walks where you're able to sort of relax, take time away from your phone, and of course now you also do like like you're running and soon to be biking and swimming and everything else that that you're doing. But now as content creator, of course, that
Mhm.
you're recording it, but I know that there's only but so many like short snippets that you're able to show. But how about that? Those times afterwards, like what would you say like your average day to day is in terms of those walks and runs? Anything that doesn't make it to the video? Any sort of moments that happen that maybe you don't speak about?
Um, Sometimes there's moments where, because sometimes I come home from work or I just there's like something going on or whatever, or you just have a day where you just don't feel like talking. So sometimes I'll have those days, and like I said, I'm my roots are I'm just a shy, kind of quiet guy. So sometimes I'm like I just don't feel like talking. But so those are things I don't show in sense like sometimes I want to show it. Like, how can I portray myself just walking in silence? Because that's usually what I'm just doing. Like walking in silence, I'm like, maybe I can just do this, but I don't know. So that's something maybe I don't show. I wish you could show like I wish you could portray the feelings of before and after, whether it's a walk or a run or whatever. I think that would be cool because I don't know, just to kind of show how it gets me fired up. All those little just what it does for you. It's super. It just drives me. But yeah, in general, I guess those are really the moments that don't make it. Just when I'm being quiet and I just silent. Or maybe I some of the videos will take a lot of takes. Some take like 2 takes. Some will, I swear, I feel like I'm filming it like 100 times. So maybe those are the things you don't see. But if I get a take and I stumble a little bit, I'll just usually leave that in because I tend to talk fast, and I'll stumble over my words. I'll think faster than I can speak, and sometimes I'll just leave that in because I'm like, I guess that's just me, anyways. Or I'm like, that was good, just beyond that part, so I'll just leave it. It's okay.
Oh, I 100% get that. As I would say, I try to be, honest and effective communicator, and sometimes, we're human. That make mistakes. We jumble our words, and so,
Mhm.
like, even for these episodes, to me, it's like as long as it's not taking away from the guest, it's like I might just leave it in. It's a nice, hilarious moment. If you make it that far into the episode, you can see it. You can let me know.
Yeah.
I've always felt like maybe some of these days, like I'll just change something up in the middle, see if anyone notices.
Yeah. 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 Absolutely. Yeah.
But yeah, and out of pure curiosity, since we're mentioning, like I said, those moments not shown. So, like within this past week and a half, were there any moments that you thought were like, like fun moments or things that you're recording that they're just like, okay, I just want to share like a fun moment or something unexpected or anything of that nature,
Hmm.
or like even if you like like run into someone, anything like that.
Yeah. I do wonder because sometimes, yeah, I just kind of post the videos kind of revolve around what the workouts are. And so, like in the mornings, it kind of leads up to the gym. And then usually there's like 1 or 2 clips between of me, like, oh, I'm getting off of work now, or I'm doing this, I'm going to go run or walk or whatever. And then the videos follow of me usually doing the thing. Um, I do wonder because during the second marathon, like my brother and my mom were around, and they're like parts of videos where they're in it. But yeah, I don't really know. I guess that's a line or just not a boundary, but just I don't really know what people are looking for. And then my thoughts are, like I said, I kind of rooted in the motivational inspiration y thing. So maybe that would lean more into lifestyle if I did show stuff like that, which I don't think is a bad thing. Um, I mean, even showing stuff I eat, for me, it's the stuff I eat every day. So I always assume people just know what I eat. But I've had people like, "What do you eat?" I'm like, I guess the people don't know, right? Um, so maybe I could show more stuff like that. I mean, maybe over time I would. But if you're wondering, Whole Foods, that's what I recommend. Just Whole Foods, and you're good to go. Not the store, but foods that are whole. Yeah.
Well, that nevertheless makes perfect sense there, and and Liam, as we were beginning, was said to close out. Is there anything that we have not yet mentioned that you'd wanted to speak about while we're here, or or any, or even any questions for me, for instance, or anything of that nature?
Yeah. Nothing in particular. I guess to mention, I one of the things I thought about was like organizational coaching because I'm very organized and structured and stuff, and I think kind of helping people along with time management and figuring things out is super cool. So I've been working with one person right now as like more of a trial run. It's like free. We're both providing each other value in this sense. So in the future, that's something I wanted to offer as well, if anyone would ever be interested. But questions for you is what got you started into podcasting? Because I know you're still in school and everything. So what kind of got you into this? I'm kind of curious.
Oh, yeah, that's definitely a great question, and and so for me, I to go back from the very beginning. So I had originally done YouTube starting in 2016 when I was in eighth grade as a part of sort of as a part of a civics and economics project. I say sort of in the sense of the project itself did not entail making a YouTube video. It was more so a make a fictional company for the sake of the project. And I said I wanted it to
Mm-hmm.
be as realistic as possible because I wanted the best project. And so, so I was like, well, you know what? I have been coming up with mock business plans for years, but I wanted to be honest and my storytelling. I just didn't want to be like, oh, well, that's easy. Do it all in a few minutes. Done
Yeah.
deal. I wanted to actually take some time. And so I developed a whole new thing. So instead of my original fictional company plans that I wanted to enact in the future, which would have been a part of like, photos, videos, I decided, well, you know what? I'm fascinated in technology right now. I'm going to do it technology based. And so I started May 1st, 2016, I started a YouTube channel that was technology based, where I spoke about my favorite devices, throwback tech, and everything of that nature. And so I eventually expanded it into a blog and then a podcast,
Mm-hmm.
and some other things over the course of the next year and a half. And so 2017, in November, I had started posting podcast episodes. They were all like tech updates about what's going on in the tech world. But by the end of 2019, uh, I was not really getting burned out per se, but I was just sort of losing interest in that side of things. Like
Yeah.
it's like I'm interested in tech, but more so, I found out I'm not really a tech enthusiast as I thought. I'm a research enthusiast. Um,
Okay.
and so I didn't want to be trapped with it. And also, I was just finishing up high school a semester early, and I wanted to focus on my academics. And so I was like, well, you know what? Heading into 2020, it's a new decade. I want to relaunch everything to be a little bit more professional and not personal.
Mm-hmm.
And so I started podcasting over with a brand new show that was sort of like a relaunch, so to speak. And so from there, I started having my first guest on. We were having tech conversations. That one was about the integration of TV and technology, which, interestingly enough, ended up being the topic of my master's thesis that I ended up doing.
That's
But
awesome.
by pure coincidence, I guess. But
Mm-hmm.
all that to say, though, is after the pandemic hit, many of my planned guests weren't really able to make it out to the episodes, even though I record virtually. And so my main emphasis was, it's like, okay, I was going to do one guest a month for all 12 months of 2020. And
Mm-hmm.
so at the time it was August, and because I have August resolutions that I usually set every year. And I was like, well, if I can't make it once a month, let me at least try to get to 12, because that's where
Mm-hmm.
I would have been. I'd already
Yeah.
done two. I record a third one in August. I was like, well, let's get to 12, or at least as close to it as possible. Um,
Mm-hmm.
so I set up one for November to make it four, and then I started recording quite a bit during the end of 2020, and I had the thought that, well, it's going to end up being 2021 by the time I get 12. But sure enough, like it was sort of catching on, and people were asking me to be on, and I was just like, well, I just want to do the 12 and that's it, but people kept insisting. They're like, well, it's like I kind of want to be on. And so I'd always told myself, it's like, okay, just one more set of 12 and that's it. And sure enough, here we are as of recording at the end of 2024. This releases in 2025 and I'm still recording.
Yeah.
And so yeah, but now with my current show, Tansson Talks, this has been going on since February 2023. And so I started about a month after starting my master's degree full time. And so I wanted a chance to do something a little bit different. I didn't want to be secluded to any sort of genre, but instead I wanted to be able to change and evolve as I grow and evolve.
I love that. Yeah. I love not cornering yourself into one specific thing. And that's exactly what you have not done, which is awesome. I like that.
Thank you so much. And yeah, now I'm able to, have varied conversations from people in the STEM field to people in the public relations space, content creators such as yourself. And and there's so many different ways, like fellow, recent college graduates, college students, professionals in the industry, and even elected officials. It's been so rewarding being able to do this, because I finally feel like, wow, as you were saying, like having your voice heard, it's like, wow, this is what I've been interested in all of my life. And now I can actually show something for this. Like, it's like, wow, really?
Yeah. That's awesome. That's awesome. Like watching your ideas grow and come to fruition.
Absolutely. And so even like for myself, I studied media studies for my bachelor's degree and lifespan and digital communication for my master's degree over the course of 4 years. And so it was remarkable to me being able to see like even some of my childhood interests, like I now have like on a published document in the university library. It's like,
Wow.
it's crazy to think about, because I knew I had those interests, but knowing that they could be expanded into professional world and academic, like I never thought that was a possibility.
Yeah, that's awesome. It's cool to not even prove yourself wrong, but to just surprise yourself. But that's awesome.
Yeah, it really is. And as a little tidbit for it, like I said, I head back to you, is that I mentioned that all of this had stemmed back from that one original YouTube channel I had launched in 2016 with that fictitious company. And I mentioned that I didn't want to use my previous envisionment of what a feature company I had would look like. But what's ironic about it is my vision for that original company, which had to do with videography and telling stories, is exactly what I do now. And so so my whole thought about making a new idea and following with that one ended up to be right where I started. So it feels like a full circle, but I'm not done yet.
Yeah, say funny how that works. That's cool. You've definitely learned. Well, one, you're definitely good at it at podcasting, because you help the conversation flow very well. I wouldn't be a good podcast host. But also the art of storytelling, because it is an art, and you're very good at it. You can tell by just your story just now.
Thank you so much. I greatly appreciate that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and speaking of storytelling, what does it mean for you to be able to tell your story here on the podcast?
I think it's awesome. It's funny to think, because we always think, oh, my story is not important, or what makes me so important. But everyone is unique. Everyone's got their unique upbringing, and the opportunity to be on something like this and actually talk, I mean, face to face on a camera, but face to face with someone is super cool. And it's cool. I just never thought I'd be doing something like this. And when you surprise yourself, it's super cool. It's awesome. I love the opportunity.
Thank you so much for that. And if anyone would like to check out any of your pages, from your Instagram page to learning more about voices, or whatever the case may be, where are the best places for them to find you?
Yeah, so the best would be Instagram. So I post the pictures and the videos there. I'm more active on my story. Usually the story is usually pretty goofy. And then I do post stuff on TikTok, but I just post what I posted on Instagram on TikTok. I'm not as active on there. Honestly, I never liked TikTok, but then I started posting on it because of this. I was like, well, I guess more reach is good, I guess. But yeah, the best place would be Instagram.
All right. Well, that is good to know. And last but certainly not last, yeah, but last but certainly not least, Liam, if you're able to go ahead and close our episode, whether it be an inspirational thought, life lesson, or whatever the case may be, the floor is all yours.
Oh, awesome. Put me on the spot. Um, well, I have one thing that on my wall right in front of me. It says what it means to show up for yourself. That's something I would like to expand on, but show yourself what it means to show up for yourself. And by showing up for yourself, you'll understand what it means to find it within you to do the things that you want to do. Because if you're doing things for other people, it's not. Personally, I don't think that's rooted in the right reasons. As selfish as it may sound, it's not. Find it in you, and you'll realize what it means to show up for yourself. Um, and then one thing I like to say a lot is find comfort in being alone while not feeling alone, but recognizing you're not meant to be alone. That's what I got.
Wow, that certainly is a lot to think about. And thank you so much, Liam, for speaking with us, for engaging your social media audience, and for helping to uplift our social media community.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me, and thank you for giving me the platform to blabber for the past hour. It's been awesome. And it's been great to meet you too.
Yes, likewise, and definitely keep me in touch with everything. I'm so excited to see what you do in the future, and if there's any future marathons, I'll hopefully be a little bit more organized for you to attend to.
Yes. Yes, there will definitely be future endurance events, especially this year, or I guess next year, this year, sort of now. But yes, absolutely.
I look forward to it. For those tuning in, thank you so much, as always, for tuning into the Tansson Talks show. I always appreciate your support. This is episode 105 of this one, my 355th overall, and I'll see you in the next one. Have a wonderful day, and let's continue on our mission to bring people together. Take care.
Awesome.